Good morning, everyone. I'm here in my bathroom, and first thing I do every morning is I clean my teeth, because it's important to start the day with fresh breath and clean teeth, which we all need to do twice a day, and I'm sure you guys do. But have you ever wondered, like I have, where the electrical components are on the end of a toothbrush? How does it charge up if it's made of plastic and there's no metal and electricity usually allowed in the bathroom? Let's look into it. Okay, so I'm sure you guys are all familiar with the classic electric toothbrush. They do a really good job, clean your teeth really well. And this is the one that I did actually get as a Christmas present. Now, there's no electrical connections on there. And there's quite a good reason, quite an obvious reason why we don't have electricity in the bathroom. I'm sure you can think of some reasons why, but how does it charge? Now, before I talk about that, I just want to talk about some other things that you'll be familiar with, because what I want to try and do, a lot of people say to me, why do I need to know this? How is this relevant to my life? And that's why I've called my YouTube channel Science Why, because people often say to me, why do I need to learn science? In fact, it's probably the question that teachers get asked more than any other, if we're honest. Now, you'll all be familiar with this. Okay, now these are like gold dust, aren't they? I certainly know quite a few of my students who are often asking me if I've got one, and the truth of the matter is I leave mine at home because my phone charges overnight. I have an iPhone 12, and at the moment, unfortunately, it's all I've got. So as a dinosaur when it comes to this sort of thing and videos and stuff, I'm having to sort of learn as I go along. So I've only got my iPhone 12, and again, I'm a bit out of date with my iPhone, but that's what I currently have. But even iPhone don't change the chargers that often. They do from time to time to keep us on our toes, as we know, but this one, there's something special about it. When you compare it with something like this, which again you may be familiar with, and part of our curriculum is where we actually look, we're teaching mains electricity, and we look inside one of these. Okay, just need to, it's a very simple piece of equipment. And there was a time when whenever you bought an appliance, you had to have one of these, you had to fit this yourself. But now normally they're molded. This particular one can be removed, so you can replace it, but it depends. The newer ones tend to be molded. I'll try and show you one of those at some point. But what I'm getting at is what's inside here. Now, think about it for a minute. If you're charging your phone, and I can't take my phone out because I'm using it to record, but if you take out your phone, you were to look at the components in there, they're very delicate components that take a very low amount of current. So what would happen if you just got your mains electricity and fed that straight into your phone? And the obvious answer would be it would explode. It'd be dangerous. You could end up with a fire. You could end up with a very, not ideal situation. And if you did it in school, we'd end up on the Moogers. But inside here is something special that we call a transformer. Okay, and it's quite similar. You'll be familiar with the laptops at school when we plug them into the chargers. And I've got a laptop with me now. It's not my laptop, but one I just wanted to show you. And actually, this particular laptop has the transformer inside the plug, and that's why the plug is so big if you look at that compared to this. But what iPhone have done, because they're very clever, is they've scaled it down. So inside here is a tiny transformer. Okay, so an appliance that I use a lot, guys, is my coffee machine, which I have right here. Now, not the most expensive one, because they are very expensive machines, but this particular one will do you an espresso or a cappuccino. I know some of you guys like a coffee. All right, and you probably also know that I'm often drinking my coffee from my flask, which I use to help keep me awake and to keep my voice working during the day. Of course, I never drink in the lab. Okay, anyway, just out of interest there, as I mentioned earlier, guys, that is what I meant by the moulded plug. So that particular plug can't be removed very easily. There is a little part there you might be able to see where you can change the fuse in case the fuse blows. It's very rare that a fuse does blow, but it's a safety device, which we will learn more about perhaps in another video because it's part of your GCSE physics curriculum as well. Now, going back to this, it's a mains appliance, and the other thing that we're quite proud of lately is we got ourselves a new fridge. Never had one of these massive fridges. And it also does all your ice and stuff, and your crushed ice and everything like that. The thing I wanted to talk to you about, guys, is mains voltage. Now, you may know that mains voltage, see if you can guess before I tell you, appliances, all your household appliances, regardless of what they are, TVs, kettles, irons, vacuum cleaners, fridges, anything, would all run on a voltage of around about 230. That's mains voltage in the UK. It does vary in other parts of the world where they have different charges. You might need an adapter for your chargers if you go abroad. America, I think the voltage is less in America. I think it's more like 100 volts. But anyway, what we need to know for our GCSEs in England is that we have a 230 volts in our mains appliances. Now, sometimes we need the voltage to be higher and sometimes we need it to be lower. So going back to this, how this works is it reduces the voltage, it steps it down. So that's called a step down transformer. Okay, and there are situations where we'd want to increase the voltage, and I'll say a little bit more about that in another video perhaps, because we have something called the national grid. Okay, so the national grid is how we get all our electricity. If you plug something into the mains, then your electricity is coming from the national grid, which means it's been generated in a power station. And it comes to you in a big overhead power line or underground cables. Now, some of those big overhead power lines, the voltage is an awful lot more than it is in the mains, much more. So the mains is 230 volts, but some of those overhead lines can be 400,000 to 750,000 volts. Okay, really highly dangerous voltages. And you might be wondering, what's the point in them being having such a high voltage and therefore being so dangerous? There is a reason. I won't talk about it now, but there is a reason. It's all to do with energy loss, because that's the most efficient way to get the electricity to yourself. I'll come back to that. So when we need to increase the voltage, we have something called a step up transformer, and when we want to decrease the voltage, it's a step down transformer. Okay, now examples of the step up and step down. If you guys might be familiar, and I'll put a picture on, there's electricity substation, I think, on the A130 roundabout. If you go from Canvey towards Chelmsford, you'll be familiar with a really big, there's overhead power lines and there's electricity substation where the electricity comes in and they reduce the high voltage down to a usable amount. So that's called a step down transformer as well. And if you want to increase the voltage to go into the power lines, then you need a step up transformer. So basically, step down transformers reduce the voltage like our good old iPhone charger would, and step up transformers increase the voltage. Here on the map, you'll see the position of that substation I was talking about on the A130 Chelmsford Road. Those are the overhead lines with their 400,000 volts. and then you'd see the transformers on the left in that shot where the voltage is stepped down. So what's this all got to do with the toothbrush? Well, earlier on, as I said, there's no electrical connection. So you might have noticed that when you put your toothbrush on to charge, if I can never get it the right way around, okay, then the actual connection, there's no metal. And as we all know, plastic is not a conductor of electricity. So how does it work? Well, it goes back to a guy called Michael Faraday. A long time ago, I think it was around about 1812. I did a little bit of research on it because history is not my thing, okay, as a scientist, but it's interesting. Go and look at how these things get discovered. Michael Faraday realised there was a link between magnetism and voltage and electricity. Now, basically what happens in here, again, that plugs into the mains. I've got a little adapter on there because it has this funny one for your bathroom, which is you might have those in your house. I don't, so I have to connect it to my adapter, and that goes into the main supply. Now, inside here is something a little bit like a transformer. Okay, so flowing through here will be a voltage. Now, what voltage does, and Faraday discovered, is it induces a magnetic field. And a magnetic field can then induce a voltage. Okay, so voltage can lead to magnetism, and magnetism can lead to voltage. So how this works is there's electricity flowing through this base part, which induces a magnetic field. And then when you put your toothbrush on, inside here, there's another part, which is where magnetism then goes back to being voltage. So the connection is made through magnetism, not through electricity. Okay, so you're still able to get a voltage in here, even though it's not actually touching the electrical connections in the base. Okay, don't know if that makes as much sense as it could, and of course I'd encourage you to do a little bit more research into it, but bottom line is, guys, transformers. So that's it for this video, guys. Really just an introduction to transformers and what that means in the context of physics. I promise I'm not trying to sell or have no affiliation with any of the appliances that you've seen today. It's really just to give you an idea about how science links with real life, which is really what this channel is all about. Linking the science with the why. The next video I think is going to be about the transformer equation, which is something you will need for your physics paper too. So for now, this is me signing off. Hope to see you again on Science Why. Oh, could that have been any more cheesy?